Hey everyone, welcome to the KE Report and a company update from Sitka Gold, chatting with Mike Burke, Director and Vice President of Corporate Development. Company is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol SIG, on the OTCQB under the symbol SITKF, and the Frankfurt Exchange 1RF. Now, Mike, we're following up on a news release from yesterday, April 22nd. One drill hole was announced, hole 75 at the RC Gold project. This is all part of this 30,000 meter drill program, still ongoing. This is the largest drill program that the company's undertaken on this asset, and this drill result just yielded the deepest, highest grade hit that we've seen on this project. The headline being almost 109 meters of 3.27 grams per ton gold. Within that hole, there's higher grade intercepts. There's also a much broader intercept of 352 meters of 1.55 grams per ton gold. So, Mike, let's dive into this hole. First, just explain to us the location of this drill hole in relation to that known deposit, please.
Yeah, this is our first hole of the season, so we targeted it to drill deeper in the system below the limits of the pit and an offset from hole 68 that, if people recall, that was an excellent hole that we had last year that ran a gram per ton over its entire length. But the bottom 93 meters of hole 68 hit 2.57 grams per ton gold. And that's below the limits of a pit. We're down at 600 meters depth kind of deal. So this hole was designed to step out from hole 68 about 70 meters to the northwest or northeast, sorry. And yeah, we hit some beautiful mineralization at depth. We put out a earlier release that talked about the amount of visible gold that we saw in it. Visible gold, it's hard to correlate directly with gold grades, but this definitely worked out, and we've seen a pretty sweet drill results. You mentioned that 352 meters, better than a gram per and a half per ton, but definitely down at depth at 540 meters to 585 meters, 45 meters of 4.52 grams per ton. That sort of grade definitely has potential to be mined underground. So we're kind of helping define this potential for underground deposit to continue below the depths of the pit at the Blackjack. And so that adds a whole new kind of facet to this deposit, and it's getting very interesting.
All right, Mike, let's talk through some of these figures then from the news release. Figure one is the cross section. That's where we can see this mineralization. The high grade mineralization really comes in that second half, the bottom half of the hole. Tying this in with figure two, though, which is more the drill map here. So more on surface where we can see these holes are targeted. Can you just explain the upper part of this hole? Because it looks like it's right in the resource area, but you're not seeing much mineralization in the top of the hole. Just explain this, please.
Yeah, the intrusion dips to the northeast there. So this hole was designed to intercept the high grade that we saw in 68 at depth. So it's not going right down the guts of the deposit. So the upper part of the hole did hit some intrusions, and we did get sniffs of gold in there, but it definitely hit the sweet spot at depth where we targeted. 68, you can see in the plan map, is a little further to the north, and that hole, it's got a nice curvature to it. It deviates. So the hole 75 is a step out of about 70 meters at depth. It's pretty hard to tell in that. It's hard to demonstrate two dimensions or three dimensions when all you can do is two-dimensional figures. But figure one, you can kind of see 68 is labeled there, and you can see the muted colors, but the bottom 93 meters ran that 2.57, and you can see where the nice hit is in 75. So definitely down at that 600 meters depth, we're hitting grades that would support a potential underground operation.
Let's talk about how this changes the game then, or potentially changes the game for this asset. Look, you already have a resource that was announced in January of this year of 2.8 million ounces in the indicated plus inferred. That's at Blackjack and the Eiger deposits. Just at Blackjack, you have over 2 million ounces, almost 2.3 million ounces. Now, that's mostly close to surface, from my understanding. So the potential of this underground component here, while this is just early on results, how does that potentially change your strategy here? How does it change the way you look at this asset?
Certainly, the resource at Blackjack, yeah, it's 1.3 million ounces in the indicated category, just a little over a gram per ton, and a million ounces in the inferred at just under a gram. So that's a pit constrained resource, and that's a fairly substantial pit. Goes down to, I forget the exact number, about close to 600 meters. So when we're seeing this kind of grade, bear in mind, we only have a few drill holes here. So we're certainly getting an idea of the shape and the direction that this higher grade zone is trending. But if it gives us the potential to, mine underground, especially with the grades that we're seeing, it might let that pit shallow up a bit, be a lower strip ratio. We're just seeing no indication at depth that this deposit is weakening. In fact, it's fairly obvious that the grades that we're encountering are picking up. So we're really excited about the depth potential. These reduced intrusion related gold deposits, this most recent phase of exploration that us and folks like Snowline and even Banyan and some of the historical deep drilling that they even did at Victoria Gold, we don't really understand the potential and the depth potential of these things. So that's something that this phase of exploration, especially here at the Blackjack deposit, is starting to kind of unravel that story. And we're pretty excited to be the ones that are finding that these intrusion related gold deposits look like they go to great depths. And like I said, we're seeing no indication yet of this thing tapering off. In fact, the grades we're encountering are getting better and better. So every drill hole you drill, it helps you plan the next one. So being out of the gates early and being able to drill in the winter with the great access that we have into this property really allows us to already look at modifying our drill program, considering other deeper holes, following up on this deep potential. So it's a real fun year for the Sitka team, as we're pretty excited about these early results.
So it's also way too early to talk about mining this deposit, but I do always get those questions asking, what does that look like from a mining scenario if you can build out an underground deposit, even a higher grade underground deposit? How would that change the mining strategy, even the economics of the project?
First, to have an underground mine, you have to have better grades, right? So that's what we're seeing, and grade is so very important, and that's one of the key characteristics that we're seeing at the Blackjack. Even the open pit resource that we've outlined at around a gram per ton is higher grade than typically seen in these reduced intrusions. The mines like Fort Knox initially, mined 0.9 grams per ton. They're now mining 0.3 grams per ton. Victoria Gold, the Eagle mine, was around zero point 0.6. Snowline has discovered an even higher grade resource. They're up around a gram and a half. So, you know, to have the optionality of continuing on in an underground scenario, it just really kind of changes the entire economics around any project. So yeah, that's the big part of it, is it gives you optionality, and yeah, it just shows no sign of getting weaker. So we're excited about following up on that.
Okay, that follow up back to figure one here, hole 76. This hole, we can see where it's drilled from. Looks like the same drill pad. Explain to us what's coming in the next drill hole, hole 76, please.
Yeah, 76 was drilled, you're correct, from the same pad. We steepened up that hole and drilled it down to just a little over 800 meters. We've seen visible gold in that one as well. You can see pictures on the website and in the press release. So we're anxiously awaiting assays from that. Be out in the next few weeks here. And then, of course, we'll be following up with more drilling as we really hit the ground running here at the start of May, and start ramping up the program to do our 30,000 meters for this summer.
One other aspect that I want to talk about is in figure 3. This is the map of this project. It shows all the different zones that you're drilling, or at least planning on drilling, or could drill in this program. We've talked about this map plenty of times and how the focus has been more in the north, but now you're starting to drill some of these other targets. Walk us through again this drill program outside of just this Blackjack area.
Yeah, great question. As you look at that map, figure 3, it shows the western part of our property. So the Clear Creek intrusive complex, it's a cluster of 9 intrusions here in a pretty compact area. It's only 5 by 12 kilometers. So in the northern part where the Blackjack and Eiger deposits are, and there's a saddle zone that sits midway between them. We're planning on 15,000 meters there to expand the Blackjack. Obviously, it's our focus. It's a expanding deposit. We haven't fully delineated that at the near surface as well as at depth. The saddle zone target area, that's located within the limits of the pit constrained resource. So there's some old drill holes in there, not that old, but holes that hit, for instance, up to 80 meters or 1.2 grams per ton. That right now would be classified as waste in our resource. So we just have to increase the density of drilling there to convert some drill holes into the resource. And then the Eiger deposit that is just to the east of Blackjack, a little under 2 kilometers. We haven't drilled a hole there since 2021. So we'll be dedicating some drilling there, obviously, to continue to expand the Eiger deposit. So 15,000 meters up in that northern corridor. Then we'll step down to the south. We did some drilling last year, both at the Pukelman, which is about 2 kilometers south of Blackjack and Eiger, and then the Rosgobble stock, which is the furthest south stock. It's about 5 kilometers south of the Blackjack. Both the Pukelman and the Rosgobble, we hit some great drill results. Rosgobble 120 meters of over a gram, 1.05. in our discovery hole there. So we're going to do 10,000 meters there, 5,000 at Pukelman. And you can see on that figure, there's plenty of other drill targets as well. We'll focus on these other areas initially, but it doesn't preclude us from stepping out and doing a hole or two at some of the other targets. And then off this map to the east are a couple additional intrusions that are gold bearing. No plans on drilling there, but we're always doing work to advance kind of earlier stage targets on the property. So a big summer ahead of us. We're well financed, planning on this 30,000 meters, and we now have $25 million in the bank. So we're able to do a lot of work, a lot of well-focused work, kind of playing on the success that we've had in the past, and really looking forward to this year.
So, Mike, before I get you out of here, do you have any better insights on when you could continue to see assay results come back from the drill lab now that you have one back?
Yeah, hole 76 should be in the next few weeks. I hate to predict lab turnarounds, but the first hole wasn't too bad. Probably maybe three weeks, hopefully, something like that. So we'll have a flow of news starting. And then, as I mentioned, as we bring more drills on to the property, as the summer season starts to roll out here starting in May, and then we're going to have a lot more core coming out of the ground and a lot quicker news flow with plenty of drill results starting in late May and continuing right through the summer. We drill typically into October, so there's a nice long stretch ahead of us with 30,000 meters of drill results coming down the pipeline here. So lots of excitement.
All right. Mike, thank you very much for this update. Again, Mike Burke, Director and Vice President of Corporate Development at Sitka Gold. If you have any follow-up questions for Mike, please email those to me. And you can click the link in the show notes to visit the Sitka website, read over that recent news. And again, send me any questions you have, especially on that drill hole or future news. Mike, thank you very much for the update today.
Yeah, thanks, Corey.